My name is Clint George, and I'm one of the owners of a sawmill located in Saratoga, Wyoming. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on the legislation before this committee today. I will direct my remarks to the bill and share with you the insights I've gained as my partners and I have worked to restart the mill in Saratoga. I am also here as a member of the Federal Forest Resource Coalition. FFRC represents purchasers of Forest Service and BLM timber in 32 states. Let me start by describing our company. Our sawmill is located in Saratoga, Wyoming, a beautiful small town of 1,700 people located in the southern part of the state. Saratoga is fortunate. In addition to having a gold medal trout river running through town, it also has a sawmill. In January of last year, we were able to reopen that sawmill after it had sat idle for more than 10 years. Our company now has more than 150 people working for it. We are the largest employer in this town. We have hired people who have previously had no work or seasonal work, and we've given them full-time jobs. We have employees and their families who have moved into town and expanded the communities. And we have noticed existing businesses growing and new businesses opening up in the town. I believe this success demonstrates the impact that an active timber industry can have on a rural economy. The mill now provides much-needed forest management in the adjacent national forest. This need is heightened by the crisis affecting those forests and many other of our forests nationwide. Disease and insects are killing millions of acres of trees. The forest in our area is experiencing nearly 100% mortality. This leads to massive fires, impacts our watersheds, affects our air quality, and ruins the ecology that supports our wildlife. It is particularly galling that this situation was in large part created by policy, not by nature. Yes, drought and climate change play a role in this crisis, but the now discounted past forest management policies are the root cause. Suppressing fires in these forests, a policy in place since 1908, combined with the dramatically reduced timber harvest starting in the 1990s, created a situation in our area of too many trees, all of the same approximate age, packed too closely together, and fighting for too few nutrients, a situation perfectly suited for massive outbreaks of insects, disease, and fire. Active forest management is needed to help restore our forest, but in a cruel irony, in the midst of an unprecedented catastrophe affecting our forests, the very companies that can use this timber to help pay to restore the woodlands are suffering from a lack of access to timber. As an example, in Wyoming, Colorado, and South Dakota, we have a small industry comprised of private and family-owned timber businesses that must rely on federal forests for their supply of logs. However, in this area, with 7 million acres of infected forest needing critical management, the Forest Service is unable to treat even 0.7% of these annually. That's the amount needed for us as an industry to survive. Let me be clear. The Forest Service wants active forest management. They want to see our timber businesses survive and help restore the forest, but they do not have the fiscal resources to do what is needed. One reason for this is the financial drain to the Forest Service of administering NEPA under the current constraints of possible litigation. Senator Barrasso's bill provides an opportunity to try a new approach on a limited scale. It proposes to take less than 4% of the national forest system and allow the Forest Service to use a streamlined approach to NEPA and ESA. This proposed bill will preserve the ability of interested parties to file objections, but streamlines the process, using binding arbitration to reduce cost, which puts more resources into management of the land rather than litigation. Senator Barrasso's bill also directs the Forest Service to implement timber harvest on 7.5 million acres over a 15-year time frame. Timber harvest put money back to the Forest Service and help pay for other resource management. The impact of Senator Barrasso's bill is a win-win on many levels. Funds freed up from litigation will allow the U.S. Forest Service to devote more funds to increasing the pace and scale of forest restoration, which in turn improve our wildlife habitats, air quality, and protect our watersheds. And of course, restoring our forest while increasing timber sales will lead to revitalizing rural economies, much like we have seen in Saratoga. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts and experiences. When considering action on this proposed legislation, please consider that the current system is driving the decline of our national forest and is unsustainable both ecologically and economically. We can't change the fact that a great deal more of our forest will die from insects and disease in the coming year. We can't change the near-term need to spend more money and time suppressing wildfire. But what we can change is this lack of active forest management. Senator Barrasso's bill offers a meaningful step forward in restoring our national forest. Therefore, I strongly urge and request, on behalf of my company and the FFRC, that we support this bill and move it toward passage. Thank you.
Thank you both for your testimony and for your patience in waiting through a lengthy hearing process today. I'd like to start with you, Mr. George, and I want to thank you for coming to testify, and also thank you for bringing jobs back to Saratoga. Your experience reopening the closed mill, because you say closed 10 years, I think it makes your testimony and your point of view especially useful to this committee. So could you talk a little bit about why it's important to have the timber industry involved in forest management?
So the timber industry is necessary because we need to manage the backcountry areas of our forests. These are the areas where the massive wildfires start. These are the areas that our watersheds are in. These are the areas that have the habitat for our wildlife. And the only the Forest Service does not have the resources to manage these backcountries. But by providing timber harvests, we can go in and we can treat those areas on large scale, landscape scales, and that's why industry, and we can do it on a commercially viable way.
In your testimony, you pointed out that there are 7 million acres of national forest land, I think you said in Wyoming, Colorado, and South Dakota, that need treatment. Yet the Forest Service is unable to provide the needed 52,000 acres annually just to support the small industry in these 3 states. So 7 million acres needing treatment. The Forest Service can't come up with 52,000 acres. And since the timber and need is clearly there, what's your view as terms of the limiting factors that are preventing the Forest Service from being able to get more work done?
Thank you, Senator. You know, it's interesting. I listened to the testimony before us, and I listened to all the areas where sawmills continue to shut down. We're probably unique in the United States in that our region is an area that we've got a resurgence in sawmills. And this resurgence of industry, however, the Forest Service does not have the infrastructure to support this resurgence in industry. So right at the same time we need all this management, they don't have the infrastructure. And that's a situation where they don't have the funds. And so when we look at NEPA, and that consumes so much of the Forest Service's resources. I mean, I've seen estimates that it's well over 50% of what it costs to put a timber sale together. And so your bill, by streamlining this NEPA, lessens or frees up some of those funds that can be used to timber sales.
In your testimony, you explained how timber production actually improves forest health. And I wonder, as a mill owner, how do you respond to critics who claim that the business is actually bad for the environment?
Well, thank you for that. I guess, Senator, what I would tell them is I am an environmentalist. And if you don't believe me, come see my sawmill. If you come out and see what we're doing, I will be able to show you acres that I have harvested of dead lodgepole pine that are now rejuvenating. And they're rejuvenating at a very rigorous rate, more than 2,500 trees per acre in some instances. I can also show you where we've got forests that from prior timber harvest that are now protecting our watersheds, or forests that are providing wildlife habitat from previous timber sales. And so I probably have a better environmental impact than many of the environmental groups out there, and we're very proud of that.
In Mr. Dumbeck's testimony, he believes timber contracts are a tool that the Forest Service should avoid and instead focus only on stewardship contracts. Do you believe the Forest Service should replace timber contracts with stewardship contracts?
The stewardship contracts are a good tool for the Forest Service, and I think that's one of the tools they can use. I worry about replacing them in total and not allowing the Timber Service to have the tool of also the traditional timber contract. And I think that while the stewardship contracts are a good tool, the timber contracts allow a lot of versatility, particularly for small producers, guys that probably don't have the resources to do everything required under a stewardship contract, but a small producer can handle a timber contract.
Thank you, Mr. George.